morning sky above Seoul was beautiful. The sun was rising, painting the clouds in soft orange and pink colors. Children walked to school with their bags on their backs. Office workers rushed to catch their trains. Street vendors prepared their food carts. It was a normal Tuesday morning in one of Earth's greatest cities. Park Joon-ho was not in Seoul that day. He was far away on Mars Colony, sitting in his office and looking at reports. As the Admiral of Earth's United Defense Fleet, he spent most of his time in space, but his heart was always back home on Earth, where his daughter Yuna lived. Yuna was 23 years old. She had her mother's kind eyes and her father's stubborn spirit. She worked as a teacher in a small school near the Han River. That morning, she was visiting her grandmother in the old part of the city. She had sent her father a message just an hour ago. "Grandma made your favorite soup." "I wish you were here," Joon-ho had smiled at the message. He planned to visit Earth next month. He would eat that soup and hold his daughter close. He missed her so much, he never got that chance. At exactly 9:47 a.m. Earth time, 3 massive ships appeared in the sky above Seoul. They were Velori warships, each one larger than a mountain. The Velori were a powerful species that had conquered 17 star systems. They believed they were the strongest beings in the galaxy. They looked at humans the way humans looked at insects. The Velori High Commander, a cruel being named Belthus, had wanted to take Earth for years. The planet was rich with water and minerals. More importantly, it sat at a perfect location for controlling trade routes. But the Galactic Council had refused his request to annex human territory. Belthos did not care about the Council's decision. He decided to take what he wanted. The bombardment started without warning. Bright beams of energy fell from the Velori ships like rain from hell. Buildings exploded. Streets melted. The Han River turned to steam in seconds. People ran and screamed, but there was nowhere to hide. The attack was everywhere. 40-7 minutes. That was how long it lasted. When it ended, Seoul was gone. 12 million people were dead. Among them was an old woman who had just finished making soup, and a young teacher who had been holding her grandmother's hand. Admiral Yoon-ho received the news while sitting in a meeting. An officer rushed in, his face white with shock. He showed Joon-ho the footage. The Admiral watched the city burn. He watched the place where his daughter lived turn to ash and fire. Then the communication logs came. Yuna had sent one final message during the attack. Her voice was shaking, but she was trying to be brave. "Dad," she said, "the sky is burning." "I love you. I love you so much." The message ended with static. Junho sat very still for a long time. The other officers did not know what to say. They watched their admiral, waiting for him to break down, to cry, to scream. But Joon-ho did none of these things. Instead, something changed in his eyes. The warmth disappeared. What remained was cold, empty, dangerous. "Get me the president," he said quietly. President Kim Do-yeon was a calm man. He had led Earth through difficult times before, but when he saw the images of Seoul, when he read the reports of 12 million dead, his hands began to shake. He called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in the Great Hall. They watched the footage together. They listened to the screams, the explosions, the silence that followed. Some of them cried. Some of them vomited. All of them felt the same thing. A fury so deep it burned in their chests like fire. The Velori expected Earth to surrender. They expected humans to beg for mercy, to accept their place as a conquered species. They had seen it happen many times before. Young civilizations always broke under pressure. They did not understand humans. President Kim stood before the assembly. His voice was steady, but his eyes were hard as stone. "The Velori believe we are weak," he said. "They believe we will bow. They believe we will accept this crime and move on with our heads down." He paused and looked around the room. "They are wrong," he raised his hand. "I call for a vote. Total war against the Velori Empire. No negotiations. No surrender. No peace until they answer for what they have done." The vote was taken. It was unanimous. Every single nation on Earth agreed. There would be no debate, no argument, no political games. For the first time in human history, the entire planet was united in a single purpose. The Valori had killed their children. The Valori would pay. On Mars Colony, Admiral Junho received the news of the vote. He looked at the holographic image of his daughter one last time. She was smiling in the picture, standing in front of her classroom. She had loved her students. She had loved life. "I will make them remember your name," he whispered to the image. "I will make sure the galaxy never forgets what they did, and I will make them afraid. So afraid that no one will ever do this again." He closed the image and called his officers. "Begin mobilization," he ordered. "Every ship, every soldier, every resource. We are going to war." Officers hurried to obey. They had never seen their admiral like this. He was not angry. He was not sad. He was something else entirely. Something cold and patient and absolutely certain. Across the galaxy, the Valori celebrated their easy victory. High Commander Belthos received praise from the Emperor. He was called a hero, a genius, a warrior without equal. He laughed and drank and enjoyed his triumph. He did not know that he had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. He did not know that far away. On a small blue planet, an entire species was preparing to show the universe what humans could do. When they were pushed too far, the Valori had wanted to break humanity instead. They had awakened something ancient and terrible, and it was coming for them. 6 months passed after the attack on Sol. In that time, something strange happened. Earth went completely silent. All communication with human colonies stopped. Trade ships returned to the solar system and never left again. Human ambassadors withdrew from every galactic station. The messages that Earth sent to other species became short and cold. "We are busy. Do not contact us." The Valori were pleased. High Commander Belthos told everyone who would listen that humans had accepted defeat. "They are hiding," he said proudly. "They know they cannot fight us. Soon they will send their leaders to beg for mercy, and we will take their planet as we always planned." The Galactic Council believed him. Most species thought the same way. Humans were young. They had only been traveling between stars for 200 years. The Valori had been conquering worlds for 3,000 years. It was obvious who would win, but deep beneath the mountains of Earth, something very different was happening. Chief Engineer Li Mingyi had not slept in 4 days. She stood in front of a massive holographic display watching robots build warships at impossible speed. Around her, 10,000 scientists and engineers worked without rest. The underground facility stretched for hundreds of kilometers. It was the largest construction project in human history. "Production report," Minji called out. Her assistant, a young man named Beek Taiho, rushed over with a tablet. "We finished 57 ships today. That brings our total to 2,400. "Not enough," Minji said. "We need to double the speed." Taiho looked worried. "The workers are exhausted. We have been running 3 shifts for months. People are making mistakes." Minji turned to face him. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her voice was firm. "My sister was in Seoul. She was pregnant with her first child. I never got to meet my nephew." She pointed at the ships being built. "Every day we delay, the Valori believe they are safe. Every day we delay, they celebrate what they did to us. So we do not delay. We do not rest. We build." Taiho nodded slowly. "I understand. Good. Now get back to work." Similar scenes played out across all of Earth. Factories that used to make cars now made weapons. Universities that used to teach philosophy now taught military engineering. Artists became propaganda makers. Athletes became soldiers. Every person on the planet had a job. Every job served one purpose: war. General Choi Sun-woo oversaw the training of ground troops. He had converted entire cities into training grounds. Young men and women who had never held a weapon before now trained 12 hours a day. They learned to fight in zero gravity, in extreme heat, in freezing cold. They learned to kill quickly and without mercy. "The Velour are bigger than us," Sun-woo told his soldiers during a training session. "They are stronger than us. They have better armor and more experience. but they have one weakness. A young soldier raised her hand. What weakness, sir? They do not know fear, Sun Wu said. They have never lost a war. They have never faced an enemy who truly wanted to hurt them. They think war is a game. He smiled coldly. We are going to teach them that war is not a game. War is death, and we are very, very good at death. Admiral Junho spent those 6 months planning. He studied every Valori battle in history. He learned their tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. He identified their supply routes, their communication systems, their most important colonies. They always attack the same way, he told his officers during a strategy meeting. They strike hard and fast, then wait for surrender. They do not expect long wars. They do not prepare for enemies who refuse to give up. Officer Han Jusu pointed at the map of Valori space. What is our target? Everything, Junho said simply. We do not attack one colony. We attack all of them at once. We hit their farms, their hospitals, their factories. We make them feel what we felt. We make them understand that this is not a battle. This is the end of their empire. Some officers looked uncomfortable. Sir, that sounds like genocide. Junho's face did not change. They killed 12 million of our people in 47 minutes. They killed children. They killed grandmothers. They killed my daughter. He paused. I am not going to kill their civilians. I am going to starve their army. I am going to break their economy. I am going to make their people understand that their leaders made a terrible mistake. And then I am going to give them a choice. Surrender those leaders, or watch their civilization collapse. The room was silent. Any more questions? There were none. On the surface of Earth, people lived in underground shelters. Cities were empty. Resources were limited. But no one complained. Every person understood what was at stake. They had seen the footage of Seoul. They had lost friends, family, neighbors. They would endure any suffering if it meant revenge. President Kim Do-yeon visited the shipyards every week. He walked among the workers, shaking hands, offering encouragement. The galaxy thinks we are hiding, he told them. Let them think that. When our fleet appears in the sky, they will understand the truth. They will understand what humans can do when we work together. The workers cheered. They returned to their jobs with renewed energy. 6 months after Seoul, the last ship rolled off the production line. Chief Engineer Ming Yi stood before the completed fleet and felt tears running down her face. It was beautiful. 12,000 warships, each one carrying weapons that could destroy a city. Each one named after a place the Valori had attacked. The flagship was the largest ship ever built by humans. It was black as night, armed with weapons that Minji herself had designed. On its side, in letters of burning gold, was written one word, Seoul. Admiral Junho boarded the ship and took his seat on the command bridge. He looked at the crew around him, at the officers who had worked without rest for 6 months, at the soldiers who had trained until their bodies broke. Today, we are not victims, he announced over the ship's speakers. Today, we are not prey. Today, we are the hunters. And the Valori are about to learn that they made a very, very bad mistake. The fleet began to move. Earth's silence was about to end, and when the galaxy heard what came next, they would never forget it. The Galactic Council met on a massive space station called Xi'an Prime. It floated in neutral space, far from any empire's territory. Here, representatives from 200 species gathered to discuss the affairs of the galaxy. Wars were started here. Peace treaties were signed here. The fate of entire civilizations was decided in its great hall. On this particular day, the council had gathered to discuss what they called the Earth situation. High Commander Belthus stood at the center of the hall, his tall figure casting a long shadow. The Valor were an imposing species. They stood 3 meters tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were completely black, like pools of oil. When they smiled, they showed rows of sharp teeth. Belthos was smiling now. Honored members of the council, he said, his voice booming through the chamber, I am pleased to report that the human problem has been resolved. Earth has been silent for 6 months. They have withdrawn from all galactic affairs. It is clear that they have accepted their defeat. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Representatives nodded their heads. Some of them had never liked humans anyway. The young species had been too confident, too loud, too unwilling to accept their place in the galactic order. I propose, Belthus continued, that the Council formally recognize Valerie's sovereignty over the Sol system. The humans have shown they cannot defend themselves. It would be merciful to bring them under Valori protection. More nods. More murmurs of approval. Ambassador Thiessen of the Moravi leaned back in his floating chair. The Moravi were ancient beings with multiple eyes and tentacles instead of arms. They had watched younger species rise and fall for millions of years. It does seem clear that Earth has given up, Thiessen said slowly. Perhaps the Valori action was unfortunate, but the result is peace. Exactly, Belthus agreed. Let us move forward and forget this unpleasantness. The Council Arbiter, a being made entirely of crystal and light, prepared to call for a vote. If there are no objections, we shall proceed to. The great doors of the hall suddenly opened. Every head turned to look. Every eye focused on the entrance. A single human woman walked in. She was small compared to most species in the room. Her hair was black and pulled back in a simple style. She wore a plain black uniform, with no decorations except for one thing: the flag of United Earth. On her shoulder, her name was Kang Yunji, and she was Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. No one had seen her in 6 months. Ambassador Kang, the Arbiter said, clearly surprised. We were informed that Earth had retreated from galactic affairs. Shunji walked calmly to the center of the hall. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. She stopped directly in front of Belthos and looked up at him without fear. We were busy, she said simply. Belthos laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. Busy hiding, you mean? Busy crying over your lost city. Tell me, little human, have you come to surrender? Yunji did not respond to his words. Instead, she placed a small device on the speaker's platform. She pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared above the council. At first, no one understood what they were seeing. It looked like a wall of metal, stretching across the entire display. Then the image zoomed out. Gasps filled the hall. Several representatives stood up in shock. Ambassador Thiessen's multiple eyes went wide with disbelief. The image showed the edge of Velori space. And there, arranged in perfect formation, was the largest fleet any of them had ever seen. 12,000 warships, each one bristling with weapons. They blocked out the stars behind them like a cloud of death. The flagship sat at the front. Its name was visible even from this distance: Sol. This is not possible, Belthus whispered. His confidence had vanished. His voice shook slightly. You did not have ships. You did not have the technology. You could not have built this in 6 months. Junji turned to face the entire council. Her voice was calm and clear. You are correct. We did not have the ships, so we built them. You are correct that we did not have the technology, so we invented it. You told yourselves that humans were weak, that we would break under pressure, that we would accept our place as victims. She paused and looked around the room slowly. You were wrong. The hall was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. I am not here to negotiate, Youngji continued. I am not here to ask for your help. I am here to inform this council that as of 0600 Universal Time, the United Earth government has declared war on the Velori Empire. More gasps. Several representatives began talking at once. The Arbiter tried to restore order. Yunji raised her hand, and the room fell silent again. Let me be very clear, she said. This is not a request for council approval. This is not a discussion. This is a notification. The Velori attacked our planet. They killed 12 million of our people. They murdered children in their schools. They burned families in their homes. Her voice hardened. How we are going to respond? Anyone who provides aid to the Velori, anyone who gives them ships or weapons or supplies, will be considered an enemy of Earth, and they will share the Velori's fate. Belthos finally found his voice. You cannot threaten the council. This is against every law of galactic civilization. Yonji turned to face him. She was so much smaller than him, but in that moment, she seemed like a giant. You killed our children, she said quietly. You think we care about your laws? She picked up her device and began walking toward the door. Thiessen called out, What are your terms? What would stop this war? Yunji stopped but did not turn around. Unconditional surrender. All Valori military commanders stand trial for war crimes. Full reparations to Earth, and High Commander Belthos is handed over to us personally. Belthos stepped forward angrily. I will never surrender to humans. I will crush your pathetic fleet and burn your planet to ash. Now Yunji turned. She looked at Belthos with an expression that made several nearby representatives step back. I hope you try, she said softly. I really, really hope you try. She walked out of the hall without another word. The doors closed behind her. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then slowly, the council erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted questions and demands. Belthos screamed orders into his communicator. The Arbiter tried desperately to maintain control, but Ambassador Thiessen sat quietly in his chair, watching the holographic image of the human fleet. He had lived for 5,000 years. He had seen many species rise and fall. He thought he understood the patterns of the galaxy. Now he realized he had never truly understood humans at all. They built that in 6 months, he whispered to himself. What else can they do? He did not want to find out. The war began at exactly midnight. Universal time, Admiral Junho sat on the Bridge of the Soul, watching his fleet spread across Valori space like a dark wave. 12,000 ships moved in perfect coordination, each one knowing its target, each one ready to strike. All units report ready, Officer Han Jisoo announced. Junho nodded slowly. He thought about his daughter. He thought about her smile, her laugh, the way she used to run to hug him when he came home. He thought about the last message she sent, her voice shaking as she said goodbye. Begin the operation, he said quietly. Across 17 star systems. Human ships attacked at the same moment. The Valori had expected a traditional war. They thought the humans would target military bases and battleships. They prepared their defenses accordingly. They gathered their fleet in a massive formation, ready to crush the enemy in a single decisive battle. But the humans did not come to that battle. Instead, they went after everything else. The first targets were food production planets. The Valori Empire needed massive amounts of food to feed its population and army. They had 3 agricultural worlds that produced most of their supply. By morning, all 3 worlds were blockaded. Not destroyed, not bombed, just surrounded by human ships that refused to let anything leave. The second targets were medical stations. The Valori had great hospitals on space stations scattered across their territory. These stations held their medicine, their doctors, their healing technology. Human ships captured every single one without firing a shot. The stations were not damaged. The staff were not hurt. They were simply told that they now worked for Earth. The third targets were communication centers. The Valor used a network of relay stations to send messages across their empire. Human engineers had spent 6 months studying this network. They knew every frequency, every code, every weakness. In 1 hour, they shut down the entire system. High Commander Belthos received the reports on his flagship. His hands shook as he read them. They are not fighting, he whispered. They are just taking things. His second officer looked confused. Should we not be grateful? They have not killed any civilians. Do you not understand? Belthos grabbed the officer by his uniform. They have cut off our food. They have taken our medicine. They have blocked our communications. In one night, they have crippled our entire empire without destroying a single city. He threw the officer aside and began pacing the bridge. This is not war, he said. This is something else. This is planned. This is calculated. This is revenge, a voice said behind him. Belthos turned. The main view screen had come alive with a human face. Admiral Junho looked at him with cold, empty eyes. Hi, Commander, Junho said calmly. I hope you are having a good evening, you. Belthos rushed toward the screen. How did you access our communications? We have been studying you for 6 months, Junho replied. We know everything about your systems. We know everything about your empire. We know everything about you personally, Belthos. The High Commander's face twisted with rage. You think you can threaten me? I have 3,000 warships. I will find your fleet and destroy every single one. Please try, Junho said. His voice did not change. His expression did not change. I want you to try. I want you to gather your fleet and come to find us. Because while you are chasing us across space, your people will be starving. Your soldiers will be dying without medicine. Your colonies will be screaming for help that never comes. Lean closer to the camera. You attacked our city. You killed our families. You showed us exactly how cruel this galaxy can be. He paused. We learned. We learned very, very well. The screen went dark. 3 weeks later, the first Valori colony surrendered. Their food had run out. Their children were hungry. Their leaders had promised them victory, but victory never came. Commander Yoon Hannah led the ground forces that took control of the colony. She was a small woman with short hair and a scar across her left cheek. She had lost her parents and soul. She had every reason to hate the Valori, but when she walked into the colony's main city, she did not order destruction. She did not allow revenge killings. Instead, she had her soldiers distribute food. Real food, not military rations. She had doctors treat sick Valori children. She had engineers repair damaged buildings. The Valori citizens watched in confusion. They had been told that humans were monsters, that Earth's army would murder them all. Why are you helping us? An old Valori woman asked Hannah. We are your enemies. Hannah knelt down to look at her. You are not my enemy, she said quietly. Your leaders are my enemy. Your high commander is my enemy, but you're just a grandmother who wants to see her grandchildren grow up. I am not going to hurt you. The old woman began to cry. Spread the word, Hannah told her. Tell everyone what you saw today. Tell them that Earth is not here to destroy. We are here to show you the truth. Your leaders started this war. Your leaders can end it. All they have to do is surrender. Similar scenes played out across the empire. Every colony that surrendered was treated fairly. Every colony that resisted was blockaded until they changed their mind. No genocide. No mass murder. Just calm, patient, unstoppable pressure. On Axiom Prime, the Galactic Council watched in stunned silence. They had expected a brutal war of destruction. They had expected humans to burn the Valori Empire to ashdot. This was somehow more terrifying. They are not killing civilians, Ambassador Thiessen said slowly. They are turning civilians against their own government. The Moravi representative next to him shook his head. I have lived for 5,000 years. I have never seen anything like this. What should we do? Another delegate asked. Thiessen thought for a long moment. Nothing, he said finally. We do nothing. The Velar brought this upon themselves. And honestly, ... He paused, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly. I do not want humans to look at us the way they are looking at the Valor. The other delegates murmured in agreement. Meanwhile, the Valori Emperor sat in his palace, watching his empire crumble. His advisors brought him worse news every day. Colonies surrendering. Soldiers refusing to fight. Citizens demanding peace. We must ask the council for help. One advisor begged. They must intervene. The Emperor contacted Axiom Prime immediately. He appeared before the council, his image shaking with desperation. You must stop this. He screamed. This is genocide. This is against all laws of civilized warfare. The Arbiter's crystal form glowed softly. You attacked them first, Emperor. You killed 12 million of their people in a single morning. The Council does not interfere in wars of retaliation. But they are destroying us. Then surrender, the Arbiter said simply. Give them what they asked for. End this war before it ends you. The Emperor's transmission cut off. Across the galaxy, every species made the same quiet note in their diplomatic files. The same warning was passed from government to government. Whispered in the halls of power. Never attack Earth. Never threaten their families. Never underestimate what humans can do when they are angry, because humans do not. Just fight wars. They finished them. The war lasted 8 months, in the end. It was not a great battle that decided the outcome. It was hunger. It was sickness. It was the slow, crushing weight of an empire that could no longer feed its people or heal its wounded. The Valori Emperor surrendered on a cold morning in his own palace. He knelt before a holographic image of President Kim Do-yoon. His proud head finally bowed. "We accept your terms," the emperor said. His voice was broken. Unconditional surrender. Reparations. War crime trials. All of it. President Kim looked at him for a long moment. "And High Commander Belthos?" The emperor closed his eyes. "He tried to escape last night. Our own soldiers stopped him. He is in chains, waiting for transport to Earth."
"Out good,"
Kim said simply. The war is over. 1 week later, Belthos stood trial on Earth. The courtroom was built on the exact spot where Sol had once stood. 12 million names were carved into the walls around him. The judges were not politicians or lawyers. They were survivors. They were people who had lost everyone they loved. Belthos tried to defend himself. He spoke about military necessity. He spoke about the right of conquest. He spoke about how humans were supposed to be weak, supposed to surrender, supposed to accept their place. No one listened. The verdict was guilty. The sentence was death. On the day of his execution, Belthos was brought to a simple room with a single window. Outside that window, he could see something being built. A new city was rising from the ashes of the old one. Construction machines worked day and night. Children played in temporary parks. Life was returning. Admiral Junho came to see him one last time. "I wanted you to see this," Junho said quietly. "I wanted you to see what humans do after tragedy. We do not stay broken. We rebuild. We grow stronger. We continue." Belthos looked at him with hatred. "You think you have one? Other species will come for you. You have shown the galaxy that you are dangerous. They will destroy you before you can threaten them." Junho shook his head slowly. "No, they will not attack us because they are afraid. They watched what we did to you. They saw how patient we were, how calculated, how unstoppable." He leaned closer. "They know that if they hurt our families, we will spend years, decades, centuries, if necessary, making them regret it." Belthos said nothing. "My daughter's name was Yuna," Junho continued. "She was a teacher. She loved children. She'd never hurt anyone in her entire life. And you killed her." His voice cracked slightly, the first emotion he had shown in months. "I am not going to watch you die," he said. "You do not deserve that honor. You will die alone, forgotten, while we build something beautiful on top of your crime." He walked out and never looked back. The galaxy expected Earth to take over the Valori Empire. They had won the war. They had the ships. They had the power. Every empire in history had done the same thing when they defeated an enemy, but humans surprised everyone again. President Kim announced the Seoul Accords at a special session of the Galactic Council. Under this agreement, Earth would help rebuild the Valor Empire. They would provide food, medicine, and technology. They would work alongside Valori citizens to create a new government, but they would not rule. They would not conquer. They would not become the thing they had fought against. The council could not understand why. Ambassador Thiessen asked, "You won. You could take everything. Why are you helping them instead?" Ambassador Kang Yoonji stood before the council one last time. She was wearing white now instead of black. Her voice was softer than before. "Because we remember what it is like to be conquered," she said. "Humans have a long history. We have been slaves. We have been victims. We've watched our people suffer under rulers who thought they were better than us." She looked around the chamber at the hundreds of species watching. "We fought this war to survive. We fought to show the galaxy that we will not be victims again. But we did not fight to become conquerors ourselves. That would make us no different from Belthos." She paused. "Peace is harder than war. Forgiveness is harder than revenge. But these are the things that make a civilization great. The Valori hurt us terribly. But if we help them now, if we show them a better way, then maybe their children will grow up knowing that there is another choice besides violence." The council was silent. "Earth has proven its strength," Yunji concluded. "Now we will prove something more important. We will prove our wisdom." She walked out of the chamber. This time, no one tried to stop her. Years passed. The Valori Empire slowly recovered. Human engineers worked beside Valori workers to rebuild cities. Human doctors trained Valori medical students. Human teachers opened schools where children of both species learned together. It was not easy. There was anger on both sides. There were people who wanted revenge, who wanted to continue fighting. But slowly, carefully, the wounds began to heal. Admiral Junho retired from the military. He returned to Earth, to the memorial where Seoul once stood. The new city had grown around it, modern and beautiful and full of life. But the memorial remained, a quiet place where people could remember what had been lost. He found Yuna's name on the wall. He touched the carved letters gently. "We won," he whispered. "We won, and then we did something harder. We forgave." He placed a small flower beneath her name. "I hope you would be proud of us. I hope you would understand why we chose mercy instead of more killing. I think you would. You always believed in second chances." Behind him, children laughed in the distance. Valori refugees walked alongside Korean families on the new streets. Somewhere, a school bell rang. "The galaxy is afraid of us now," Junho continued. "They think we are monsters. And maybe we could be, if we had to be. But that is not who we want to be. We want to be what you always saw in us. We want to be good." He stood there for a long time, watching the sun set over the city, far away on the edge of explored space. A young species called the Thrin was considering their future. They had powerful ships. They had advanced weapons. They were looking for territory to expand into, and human space seemed like an easy target. Their scouts intercepted an old transmission, Ambassador Yuenji's declaration to the council. They watched the footage. They studied the human fleet. They researched what happened to the Valori. The Thrin High Command met to discuss their findings. "The humans are dangerous," one commander said. "But they also showed mercy. Perhaps we could negotiate with them." Perhaps the Supreme Leader agreed. "But do we want to risk it?" They built 12,000 warships in 6 months when they were angry. What could they build if we gave them a year? 2 years? The room fell silent. "Send diplomats," the Supreme Leader decided. "Send gifts. Send messages of friendship. We will not repeat the Valori's mistake." The message spread across the galaxy, passed from species to species, whispered in the dark corners of space stations and shouted in the halls of governments. It became a saying, a warning, a piece of wisdom that every civilization taught its children. Do not wake the humans. Let them sleep. Let them dream their dreams of peace and cooperation and second chances. Because when you wake them up angry, when you hurt their families, when you force them to choose between mercy and survival, they do not stop. They do not tire. They do not forgive until the war is won. And by then, it is too late. Earth slept peacefully among the stars. Its children grew up in a galaxy that feared them, but also respected them. They were not conquerors. They were not tyrants. They were simply humans, with all the love and fury and stubborn hope that made their species unique, and the galaxy made sure to let them sleep because nobody wanted to find out what would happen if they woke up angry again.